Hi, welcome to this Partner Showcase. My name is Guy Bartram. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at VMware for our cloud providers. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Datacom in New Zealand and Ross and Darren. So let's just start with a quick round of introductions. Ross, do you want to go first?
Hi Guy, thanks for having us. Pretty exciting to be here today to go through what we're going to chat about. Bit of background for myself. So I'm the Director of Cloud for Datacom across Australia and New Zealand. We're the leading private cloud provider in the Australian and New Zealand markets. And we're super pumped with the relationship we're with VMware, which underpins all of that awesome capability my teams go through.
Excellent. Thanks, Ross. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So Darren, do you want to jump on next?
Yep. So Darren Hopper, I'm Associate Director for Product for Datacom Cloud here in New Zealand. So like Ross mentioned, really excited about the Sovereign Cloud status and how we actually leverage the opportunity that presents to us in New Zealand from a product and customer perspective.
Brilliant. And today we're going to dive into Sovereign Cloud in some detail. So let's just let's perhaps start it from the top and let's get a brief kind of high level of what Datacom is and what Datacom does that is addressing Sovereign Cloud principles.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Datacom's been around for 50 years. We're really part of the heritage of New Zealand, and we underpin almost everything that people would go through in their day-to-day tasks in New Zealand. Be it we protect the borders through to run hospitals or paying everyone when it comes to big payroll applications. So if you think of that, we have invested heavily in the New Zealand and the Australian markets, and I think that's what sovereign means for us is how are we invested in the markets and how are we helping businesses and governments thrive. So when we come at it from a sovereign cloud perspective, and particularly looking at our government market, it's really key that we help government agencies and the people of New Zealand and Australia start to understand the importance of what sovereign means, particularly from a data perspective, Guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darren, let's zoom into a little bit of that. So, as Ross mentioned, data is all important. Protecting the national interest is all important. What specifically around data would you consider some of the important stuff that customers, especially public sector customers, need to be considering?
Yeah, it's a good question, Guy. I think, look, the nature of the business that we run here, as Ross has mentioned, a lot of the data that we hold can be relatively sensitive. For instance, when we are working with one of our customers, NZ Blood, we've got lots of very personal and sensitive information that needs to be protected from for a number of different reasons. But also as well, a lot of the data that we keep for our customers, there's a requirement for this to be instantly accessible and available to those customers. So, for us, it's not just about having the required sort of security considerations around that data, but it's also about how we make sure that for that critical infrastructure and those critical apps, that we make sure that our customers can get access to that data very quickly and easily. So we manage both those particular aspects for our customers. So look, data is probably one of the most important aspects of our offering, and a lot of our customers come to us and expect us to sort of manage that in a very specific way. So it's something that we don't take lightly, and it's something that we have a lot of focus on across the business, not just within our area, but obviously within our partners with regards to cybersecurity and so on.
Right. And as you said, surprisingly, I didn't notice, but 50 years is a long time to be delivering services to national infrastructure like you are. And Sovereign Cloud is not a new solution for you guys. You've been delivering this for a long time. So what is the kind of the recent focus for you in sovereign cloud, and how is that reflected in your offerings that you're now providing?
Yeah, we have been working really hard with VMware and our customers and some other partners around the movement towards hybrid cloud, or more of what we would probably call distributed cloud, and where that future is going. In New Zealand, we have the fortune of two of the biggest hyperscalers in the world arriving with Azure and AWS. And with that brings a whole heap of really positive disruption when it comes to the market. So from a sovereign cloud perspective, where we've been leading in that space for the last 10 years, to help customers embrace that world, we've really had to go back to the drawing board and look at what we do with our partner VMware to actually help us connect the pipes into everything, whilst remaining really secure and focused on that sovereign nature of the data. So that's one aspect that we see around the strategy and the movement towards embracing multiple different types of technologies. The other thing that's become really important from a policy and a government perspective is the nature of what is deemed sovereign data. Particularly in the New Zealand market, there's a lot of discussions going on around legislation towards multi-sovereign data. So that is data of the local iwi and the people of New Zealand that need to fit within certain legislation criteria. So it's really important that not only is there residency side of things, there's actually more the secure nature of what really does stay on our shores, and that we look after and treat really respectfully.
Yeah, and you raise a really good point, Ross, and this is something that, in Europe as well, we're particularly seeing this at the moment in the rise of sovereign cloud and the need for national interest to be protected. Is just because there is a hyperscaler within your geo, within your territory, that just really implies the data is going to be within that data center potentially, but the staff that may be hired by that hyperscaler will be within maybe national staff, but it's no guarantee that the data isn't under jurisdictional control of where that company has come from. And typically the ones we're talking about are under US jurisdictional control, wherever they are in the world. So that means, in fact, the data, as you said, via legislation, needs to stay resident in New Zealand, but actually if you're in a hyperscaler, that is actually under US jurisdictional control.
Yes, yeah, and that's where we see a really important piece being played in the near-term future with our sovereign cloud designation that we've worked on with VMware. So we've been down this track for many years with extremely private networks and infrastructure that are the safest and most secure in New Zealand. It's an aspect of how we evolve that now, and what that means, as you say. There's great examples like what happened in Ireland, where there was examples of the US accessing data, even though it was resident to that nation. And as you say, in Europe, there's been the instance where Franco-German private clouds have been set up to allow for more sovereignty for the people in those jurisdictional areas, to make sure that they are actually, in fact, in control of their data and where it resides. For us, what we're focused on is CloudX. So CloudX is the best in breed of everything from VMware and Dell coming together to make sure that we take it to that next level. So evolve on how we've been doing this really well for the last 10 years, but do it in a way that allows people to be in control of that sovereign data, whilst having it talk really nicely and collaborate very well into the wider scale and other types of innovation that the likes of Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud offers.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well. As we look at more multi-cloud strategies and multi-vendor strategies that all companies want, because obviously it's competing on price and innovation, like you say. You need to be flexible and interoperable enough as a sovereign cloud provider to recognize actually hyperscale has its place, our cloud has its place. And when you want complete, segregated, isolated, full control, full audit compliance, that's when you come into this site. When you want something that's public cloud, throw away, then that's where you go into that site. And having that balance and control across both is critical. Sorry, go on.
And I think expanding on that, we were talking to the Chief Digital Officer of a very important healthcare customer of ours, and obviously with the likes of COVID that's impacted the world, and the move towards things like your digital identity and COVID passports and the ways that people will move around in the world, it's opening up a complete new paradigm that we need to answer. And actually diving into some of the words that she was talking to us about the other day is she's running somewhere upwards of 15 different types of environments and platforms that need to come together. And if I also talking to some of the other government agencies that are in charge of some of the COVID applications that are going to be critical for New Zealanders, and also tourists and international people traveling around New Zealanders, these things need to run 24/7 and never go down, because of the importance of having the country continuing to run. So if you think of that in the context of looking after really critical health data, whilst also having that interoperability, as you said, Guy, be it into public cloud or into those sovereign private clouds like Datacom's Cloud X, we need to really solve that as a community, and it's going to be a team sport, is how I'd put it.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And Darren, and just to switch to you for a second, in charge of products and innovation there, how has CloudX evolved over the last few years to deal with these new customer challenges?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, as Ross mentioned, CloudX, it's been a great journey for us to get to where we are right now. And if I rewind 18 months, CloudX has really been born out of collaboration and sort of co-creation with our customers. So we've approached this from a human aspect rather than a technology aspect. So I think sometimes a lot of product development starts with the technology and then builds out. And I think what we clearly wanted to do with CloudX is really understand what the human impact is, what are the human problems and challenges that we're trying to solve, and then look at how technology could potentially solve for that. So that's how we approached that. We spent a long time with customers really understanding what those challenges are today, and where they're looking to move to in the future. So when you see CloudX, some of the words that we're using is human by design, and effectively what we mean by that is there is always usually a human at the end of technology. So we wanted to make sure that we'd actually designed it to make sure it was simple and straightforward. Ross mentioned, and we've mentioned there about distributed cloud. So we also needed to make sure that CloudX was seen as an and cloud solution. So I think previously people have talked about public or private. And one of the benefits that Datacom offers is, and this is through our right cloud strategy, we can provide solutions regardless of where the destination or the endpoint actually is. So whether that's private cloud, whether that's public cloud, whether that's edge. So we needed to build capability that would allow us to actually do that. So we came up with user cases based on real customer needs to deliver that. But also as well, really understanding that customers do have different needs and requirements. We need to make sure, if we go back to data and sovereignty, some of our customers will want to move cloud native, put applications in public cloud. They might want to have the certain aspects of that application in public cloud, but they still want to make sure that they've got that control over data, and for certain aspects of that data, have that sovereignty status. So a lot of the work that we've been doing with CloudX is making sure there is this interoperability between private and public cloud, creating a hybrid solution for our customers, because the future is probably a multi-cloud hybrid approach. The future is not just public, and the future is probably not just private. So that's what we've looked to create with CloudX. a way in which customers can see this as a launch pad to cloud native, or in fact, if they've moved to public cloud, and we're seeing this with many of our customers, looking to move certain aspects of their infrastructure, applications and data back into an environment that can just give them a little bit more control.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said the right cloud, which is really important. Those the nomenclature of public and private and hybrid and edge, it's all going to be hybrid, multi-cloud, whatever it is. It's the right cloud for the workload that's the most important thing. And then actually managing to control the performance, the cost, the security, and everything else around it. And you're right, we see a lot of repatriation of workloads or parts of workloads coming from public cloud for exactly those reasons. And I think there's been a significant take up in cloud across the board for the last year and a half since COVID started, as all businesses suddenly realized they need to accelerate their digital transformation. And that's caused a lot of confusion, a lot of mistakes probably. And the successful cloud providers out there today are the ones who are saying it's not one or the other, it's the right cloud.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the sovereign key principles then, particularly around data control and frameworks in place. What do you guys have to offer for CloudX for that to be, recognized by New Zealand's government, used by New Zealand's government as the number one supplier for all of the agencies and public sector?
Yeah, so we've really invested heavily in all of the additional protection. So, we're ISO certified, and we've been really strict on how we do that. We look to adhere to all of the other types of kind of jurisdictional controls, whether that's things like BS11 if we're dealing with financial organizations, or PCI compliance, whether that is again maybe in banking finance sector, but also when it comes to protecting government data and things like that. But our biggest investment is the partnership that we've had with the Department of Internal Affairs in New Zealand. They are the lead agency for the government panel in New Zealand, and have been leading the way for many years around how government agencies remain safe, secure, and have reliable experiences when it comes to technology, be it cloud, telecommunications, or whatever it might be. That has been evolving as obviously technology changes and government needs change. And one of the things that we're really proud about, and that is we've invested with government to make sure that our data centres and our clouds are the leading clouds and data centres in New Zealand. We consistently achieve their very strict ratings, and we've been really proud about that. We've been the only cloud in New Zealand that consistently does that as well. So adhering to that is second to none for us. Where we're moving to in that, though, is obviously different cloud blueprints and frameworks when it comes to that hybrid nature that you touched on, Guy. And that's going to be how security policies can traverse from your private infrastructure into public cloud. And I think, if I stem back to who's helping us with that, is very much VMware. And if you think we're also a cloud verified platform from VMware in New Zealand, and we're really proud of that. And when we've shared that with DIA, as well as our new Sovereign Cloud designation, they're blown away by how serious we treat this and how much we're investing in this.
Brilliant. And yeah, I mean, the cloud verified kind of footprint and verification is like the standard to build on for your infrastructure, and having a lot of the security that you inherit from VMware's enterprise heritage and all the security checks we go through with software, you obviously inherit, and then you have that lovely interoperability with what customers are running on-prem today.
Yeah, and we've been able to demo that with the launch of CloudX, when it comes to things like NSXT and network segmentation and how those policies can traverse into, say, your Azure environment, customers are blown away that we're the first to deliver with VMware a true hybrid solution that's going to allow particularly government agencies to be unleashed into doing things in a safe and secure manner, but evolving their people and their applications and what they need to safely embrace public cloud, which doesn't come secure out of the box, like a CloudX powered by VMware does.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point, Ross, and I'm just going to switch to Darren again so you can talk a little bit about the future portfolio that you guys are bringing in. I mean, NSXT and being able to establish that secure standpoint across whatever cloud you go to is totally unique. No one else out there does that and gives you that single hybrid control plane. Darren, how do you see this evolving? And we've talked about the fact that we need different levels of security, different tiers of access, interoperability between this whole thing. It's all going to be a hybrid play. It's the right cloud for the application. How's your portfolio racking up to support this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Guy. I think the one thing I will say that how we evolve the portfolio is largely down to the conversations that we have with customers. So one of the things that we do on a very regular basis is sit down and really understand what are the pain points that we see our customers are facing into. And I think largely what we say is our roadmaps, from a product perspective, our roadmaps largely driven by our customers as opposed to technology. Now you mentioned there about NSXT. I think network segmentation is certainly going to be a really important part of our portfolio, building out that capability there. I think as we move to more distributed clouds, as customers look to use the edge where they've got compute and where they've got other applications in various destinations, the challenge for us as an organization, how do we protect those environments? How do we actually make sure that our customers still have that level of security that they expect from us as a sovereign provider? So I think that's one of the key challenges for us. Key areas seen as hygiene now, but absolutely an area of focus for us is in that cyber security. But I think one of the key things that we are looking at is how do we actually help our customers protect them at the front end. I think a lot of what organizations do is provide them with the solutions. If you've had an incident, we can do
after the fact.
We can do that after the fact. One of the key areas that I'm looking to explore with my product team is how do we actually make sure that we've got enough of that security at the front end that is never something that is going to be a factor in for our customers. So it's probably the focus in that particular area. But the other thing is as well, we talk about overall product portfolio. It's about how we simplify the actual solution, how we simplify the products. One of the key areas of focus, as well as the actual key technology, is looking at the user experience. How do we actually create the best user experience, the best customer experience? If customers are starting to manage multiple cloud environments, how do we make that really simple? How do we reduce the tool set? So one of the key areas of the team is really understanding what real cloud user experience, customer experience looks like, and we want to be at the forefront of that. So we're looking to develop some really critical products in our portfolio that will help our customers manage those multiple cloud environments in a way that really helps them reduce overheads, creates more efficiency, and reduces the input costs, because they're really important for our customers as well as they manage these growing cloud environments.
let me expand on that a little bit, Guy. I think Darren's unpacked that really well. That's our vision, to make it a lot more simpler. Part of our vision at Datacom is to turn the imaginable into reality, and that's quite a hard thing to achieve with customers who have big ambitions. I think some of the two specific things that we're really evolving into with the launch of CloudX is, what Darren's talking about around cyber, is we see carbon black, that being inherently baked into everything that we do within the VMware stack, is just going to be critical. We've already seen the amazing impact that's having on customer security, and I think VMware listening to the partners and having that come baked into VCF and all of the amazing parts of the VMware stack is just a game changer out there. Yeah. The other one that I'd say we're really excited about, and my engineers are they're playing with it in the labs and they're getting it already, is the excitement around Tanzu. The launch of that and how we can now start to run containers alongside the more traditional VM approach. Again, is an area that we're really doubling down on. As I look to our customers and how their people are evolving, moving towards more DevOps type models, as you start to see some of that infrastructure as code that comes out natively out of CloudX, with Tanzu, we're a hop, skip and a jump away of really delivering what is cloud native in a sovereign status, and how that CI/CD capability plugs into development teams and what they're doing across any of the platforms is really where we're evolving, and we've done a lot of that in New Zealand already. So it's now taking that VMware capability and just springboarding it.
Yeah, that's kind of what gets me out of bed in the morning when I think about the previous assumptions that you'd have over a hyperscaler is that there's so much money R&D going into hyperscaler that we can't compete, and I have to go to a hyperscaler to innovate. That is not true. That is totally false. And with some of the things you mentioned, Carbon Black, VMware Tanzu, Green Plum, and other data services that we're providing, yep, there's real innovation that is available within your national sovereign cloud provider. And the nice thing about it is everything that you are doing in there with the VMware solutions that you're giving to your customers is interoperable with whatever cloud you wanted to potentially move into in the future. And that's a big thing around sovereign cloud, is not necessarily having that lock-in, having that interoperability. Should you wish to change, it is there, it is viable, it's a real thing. And you have solutions like machine learning, AI. There's tons of applications from the VMware application catalog, plus your own applications that you can publish. Government applications. It's all really, really nicely wrapped up into a platform play.
Yeah, and certainly VMware's investment and acquisition of Bitnami and how that's transforming into application launchpad and how that natively comes now as a true platform as a service experience within VMware is again there's so many engineers out there that have such incredible heritage in the VMware space, and now it's actually helping them propel their careers. And certainly within our team, we run something called a Smart Cloud Initiative, and that's where we are really investing in our engineers' futures by rewarding them for achieving all of their VMware certs. And we're really fortunate. We have the most V experts in my team across Australia and New Zealand. We've got some of the best and brightest. So we're just we're so excited to do more. And you mentioned Green Plum, and when it comes to data and what that looks like, again, that coming up down the roadmap is going to be really exciting space to innovate in as well.
So if customers are wondering why they can't get the resources for VMware anymore, they know where they are.
Yeah.
All right, great. Just switching gears a little bit. Sovereign means a lot of things to a lot of people. And to me, one of the things that really backs up sovereign is national interest and the company acting, within the national interest of the country. So in that respect, in the UK, we have something called social values. In America and across the world, it's commonly known as ESG initiatives, enterprise, social and governance. What does Datacom do in terms of that? Because obviously, what you're saying there, Ross, around giving back to your engineers, that's a great thing around the social values that you're promoting within your company. Is there any other stuff you want to talk about?
Yeah, we've really shifted gears, particularly as people often call it working from home, but we call it working at home, and really recognise how the work-life balance has shifted thanks to our little virus friend in the last couple of years. So Datacom, from an overall strategy side of things, is really heavily investing in that people side of things. And one part of our purpose is really helping the countries and the communities that we work in thriving. And when we look at that from a people and a country perspective, that means many different things to many different people, whether that's being more mindful of culture and what that means to our people, whether that's being more aware and focused on the ethics around some of the things that customers expect in our relationship, or even when it comes back to giving back to society or looking at it from the eco side of things. We pride our data centres as being green data centres in New Zealand. We really work very hard on looking at the carbon footprint of the business and what that means. So that's at the forefront of the decisions that we make. And when it comes back to giving back to those communities and country and helping it thrive, we really encourage our people to get out there in the communities and do things. And as an example, actually, we have an initiative with VMware, where we're working with people who have disabilities and looking at bringing them in to explore careers in cloud, and actually jointly getting out there in the community and talking about what technology means for those parts of society as Datacom and VMware together, which I really cherish that part of our relationship.
Brilliant. And that's exactly, you hit all the sovereign principles bang on. It's not just about, the data and the cloud security and everything else, but it's also about recognizing that it's in your national interest to work with a sovereign cloud provider to help boost your economy and keep your sovereignty. Right, let's just finish up here. So Darren, over to you. Any final thoughts about, why should customers work with Datacom, and, really how would they find out more about your sovereign cloud and CloudX?
Yeah, well, look, how they'll find out more, you can go to our website, datacom.com, and find out everything that we do within Datacom, but obviously within our cloud teams as well. I think, look, the one thing I'll say is, from our perspective, and I mentioned this before, data sovereignty and sovereign clouds is absolutely really important to us. I think the one thing that's probably as important, if not more important, is really working through exactly what that means for our customers. I think the portfolio of services that we offer allow us to genuinely sit down and say, where are you going? How can we help? And I think with what we've mentioned during this conversation, we've got the greatest technology, right? We've talked about some of the products we've talked about CloudX, which is the future of cloud. But I think where we've just been talking just recently is we've got the best people. And I think that's really important as well, to acknowledge the fact that we invest in the people, we invest in the training, the certifications. So we've got, people within the community. So when, we're talking about national interest, we invest in those people to provide the best of service, best of breed service to our customers. So that's something that's absolutely inherent with what we do. Technology itself, and as I said, we work with an awesome partners in VMware, but the technology can only go so far. And really what we do is we invest a lot in the people to actually accelerate that technology and really create the solutions at the end of it that would allow us to solve for those ever complex customer problems.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the complexity of cloud only just continues to increase, and it will always continue to increase. Having the right resources and skills and the human capability to comprehend what customers are really after, and then provide all of the knowledge that you've gained, not just the wisdom actually that you've gained from perhaps trial and error before on these things, and bringing that to a customer is invaluable. I mean, that is where the edge is if you've got it. Brilliant. And Ross, any final words for you before we finish up?
Yeah, I think just expanding on Darren's side of things, it is about people. And when we're thinking about sovereign status and sovereign clouds and data, I go back to the people that are within those countries have a right. And that right is to ensure that data is actually sovereign to the country, be it New Zealand or Australia. I said at the beginning, we're a 50-year-old organisation. A bit that I didn't say is actually one of our majority shareholders is the New Zealand Super Fund. So the New Zealand government is invested in Datacom, backing us and trust us to do this. So when we think about the shifting sands of data that's important to people, be it health data that we spoke about, be it financial data, be it anything that an individual would deem private to them and something that they really want looked after in a proper way, that's the role that we play. And making sure that that's done in a way that's respectful to the people of the country and the communities, whilst also adhering to really important laws as a New Zealand-owned entity is really key. So I think there's a lot more education to go on in that space. And a lot more to do to help people understand the importance of this and actually what that means more in a government sense as well, whilst embracing lots of different types of technology that are coming thick and fast at us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think from what I've heard today, Datacom, obviously the government is behind you, invested in you. You've been around a long time. You've had Sovereign Cloud under your wing for a long time. You've got a fantastic portfolio. You've got the skills and people. And, Darren, as you said, right, we come from a human angle first, really understanding what is the human needs, the customer requirements, and how does the customer want to move forward through this journey, because it is a journey. It doesn't have a specific endpoint like a private cloud or a public cloud. It's going to be a constantly evolving cloud. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Ross and Darren. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and really been excited to hear about CloudX and Datacom's offer. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Guy.
Thanks, Guy.